Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to National Land Bodybuilding Mountain. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, do you have to become fat in order to put on muscle? So there's a lot of obsession with bulking in the bodybuilding circles, and it's been like that, especially on social media. Like people are doing like 20,000 calorie challenges or 1 million calorie, like I don't know how many calories they're doing, or how many sticks can you shove in your mouth, and how many rocks can you digest and poop out in one solid form, like a statue or something. I'm sure it's a thing. It's probably a thing. But the thing is that I found is that there's a certain amount of energy reserves that are ideal for putting on muscle. So you don't want to be emaciated down to like 3% body fat and try to put on muscle, because your body needs a little bit of a reserve to tap into to make sure it doesn't tap into the muscles. So when you're eating and then you store a bit of glycogen through your carbs in your muscles, say you go through a period of time where the body needs some of that energy, it can pull it out of the muscle glycogen a little bit, or pull it out of the fat stores. And there's always a percentage of glycogen, fat, and protein being used for energy. So if you have a bit there, at least enough to feed the body so it doesn't have to rob your body of muscle tissue, it only stands to reason that you will have a better ability to put on muscle. But where it all goes sideways is that people use the whole bulking thing as an excuse to just eat whatever they want and eat as much as they want, and justify it and justify getting fat because they're saying, hey, I'm putting on muscle. Now if you find this is working for you, go ahead. Like I'm not against it. But I just had somebody on my Patreon page ask, do you have to put on so much fat in order to gain muscle? And my answer would be is no. You just have to have enough fat on the body and enough carbs in your system to be able to make sure that your body's not robbing the muscle tissue for energy or eating that up. And this will be different depending on a person's metabolism. I find a person that has a slower metabolism will have an easier ability to maintain muscle mass under a diet type condition or extreme cardio and therefore. So this is definitely going to be an individual thing, but I do find that you can maintain 8% or 7% body fat and still put on muscle, because you're not in this emaciated catabolic stage, right? So one thing I found when I was competing was that when I tried to maintain a little bit more leanness in the off season, basically I didn't eat as much garbage. I tried to eat foods that fed the muscles specifically. I naturally maintained a bit of a leaner physique, but I also ended up putting on more muscle. So your main focus should be is feeding the muscles, not the fat stores. So if you notice that you're eating a lot of food, but you're putting on a bit of body fat, perhaps your fat intake is too high. That's one of the first things I'd look at. Or your carbohydrate intake might be too high, or maybe it's the wrong stuff. It's like too sugary. Maybe you're having too much sugar instead of good complex carbs. So I would simplify what you're trying to do. If you're trying to put on muscle, it's okay to put on a little bit of fat, but if you notice the fat's coming on a lot, I would cut back a bit on the energy food and increase the protein, or replace the energy food with protein altogether if you're still hungry, right? So that's really the way I approach putting on muscle. I never thought it would be a great idea to just put on 40 pounds of body fat and then try to cut that down for a competition. I didn't have the metabolism for that anyway, but it never seemed to work out that well for guys that would get into whale status in the off season and then try to emaciate themselves. They'd always end up carving off so much muscle, right? But as far as us like hobbyists, right? We're always doing stuff to feel more vital and to, as a hobbyist, basically feel like we're putting on more muscle and being healthier. I would just recommend catering your diet based on what's going on with the body at the time. And if you notice the body is skimming off a little bit of body fat, there's no problem with that. But if you start to notice that you're always out of breath, you're always getting weaker, or you're always having a hard time getting a pump, well, maybe you've gone too low in the food at that point and you need to add a little bit more starch or a little bit more protein to your diet, right? So I make these adjustments as I go, but I don't believe in bulking specifically. I found when I bulked by accident, because after a bodybuilding show, sometimes I would be like, oh, I just want to eat whatever I want. I found my recovery actually went down because I started eating a lot of foods that weren't feeding the muscle tissue. They were just feeding the fat stores. And a lot of those fat calories I was taking in were taking the place of a lot of the protein as sources of food I should have been taking in, or some carbohydrates. So I wasn't getting the proper blood flow or recuperation macros in order to recover from my workouts, and I'd end up getting injured or overtrained much faster. So it's kind of the opposite of what a lot of guys will tell you. They'll say, oh yeah, you eat tons and there'll be no problem. Well, if I ate tons of the wrong food, my recovery actually went down. So it's about eating the right foods. Protein, good quality starches, some green vegetables in there, right? Get some minerals, eat an eggshell once in a while, eat some beef liver, you know? And then from there, you just try to increase the high quality food. And if you start putting on fat, then just cut back on the energy food a little bit and see what happens. Mountain. So I hope this helped you out in your training. Thanks a lot for watching. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalgalantbodybuilding.com, and thanks to the Patreon supporters, and take care for now. Natural Galant.